Okay, welcome to One Stop Coopshop. Steve here, Bairnt.
Yes, we are here, Steve, again. We are going to come to your We're like your new Saturday morning cartoons. You can kind of snuggle up and get ready to enjoy the day. And that was always something I used to do every Saturday morning was wake up and then be able to watch like the Smurfs and whatever else was on Saturday mornings. And then by about 10, 11 o'clock, the 700 Club would come on and I would turn off TV.
Yes. Oh man, I always watch cartoons in the morning too. Like I have been, no joke, rewatching the Batman animated series
Oh
just
my
because I feel
gosh,
like
it's so
it.
good.
It is
Oh,
so
that's so good.
good. It's such a great show, and it's interesting though too because like watching it now much older, I'm like wow, this is pretty intense and some heavy themes in it, like PTSD
Yeah.
going on and stuff. But yeah, it was
Mm-hmm.
really well done show.
Yes, it definitely has some more themes and deeper meaning than the shows like He-Man that I used to watch when I was.
He-Man, yes, yes,
Yeah.
He-Man, of course.
That was quite the marketing tool. Okay, we got a guy. What should we call him? Oh, He-Man. Sounds pretty good. Beast Man. Sounds pretty
Beastman,
good.
yes, yes.
There's all these awesome names. Oh, those were the '80s. That was the '80s. Anyway, welcome to the One Stop Quad Shop morning chat here. We are excited to have you, and I'm excited to dig into our thing. Steve's going to go ahead and talk about some news first, and then we'll dig into our topic.
Despite appearances, we're not here to talk about shows, even though I'm sure we could. We're here to talk about cooperative games. But yes, I have. We'll just do the news real quick and get into a fun discussion topic. This is all live, so join us, asking questions you have fun. But I only have one news topic to bring up, and that is coming up this Tuesday. Astro Knights is launching. Astro Knights, if you're familiar with the board game industry, there's another game called Aeon's End, which became very, very popular deck builder. And Astro Knights is really the predecessor to it, which is interesting because it's coming out after Aeon's End. So it's kind of weird how that's happening, but it is very similar in instruction style, with some notable differences. Like the market, for example, is not static; it's a dynamic market of cards you can buy from, and the setup and teardown is quicker. But yeah, that's coming up this Tuesday. If you're looking for that, that is basically all I have for news. So
I've got a little bit of news. Sad news. Sad news. I'm sad to report that my game that I was really excited for on Kickstarter has decided to cancel and rework its funding and things like this. Rogue Angels has been pulled from Kickstarter for now. He does have a page if you're interested in learning or wanting to know when it comes up on Kickstarter. He's planning to redo it. Yeah, there's like a little form you can fill out for your email address, and he would send you an email saying when it's coming back on. He's going back to try to rework some of the marketing and potentially rework some of the standee concepts and things like this. And I think everything he's planning to do that's going to will probably help it fund the next time. I think a lot of other indie first time developers kind of run into this problem every once in a while. I know we
yeah,
had a really fantastic game with the Ghost Betwixt right up here had an issue the first time they went through Kickstarter, and he had to rework a lot of things. Came back and he funded without any problem the second time. So I really have a lot of respect for Emil from putting up a great game, and I know he's going to come back full bore with an absolutely fantastic product. And we're still planning to do a live play with him coming up in the future. I believe we're doing it in a couple weeks, right, Steve?
couple weeks, yes.
Couple weeks. So instead of the co-op chat in a couple weeks, we'll be doing that playthrough with him live. So please join us for that. It'll be a lot of fun, lots of laughing, lots of excitement, and you'll be able to learn a little bit about what the game is and what he plans in the future.
And not only will the designer be joining us, but also Kanji Studios will be joining us. It'll be a four-player
Oh,
game.
that's right. It's going to be a four-player game. That's
Mm-hmm.
sweet to see four different characters, and this game actually has 20 characters. So seeing four of the characters will give you a little glimpse of well, I guess about a fifth of the characters you can be.
Yes, I think that's how math works, right?
You like that? I actually did a little bit of math this early in the morning. I'm pretty proud of myself. My son would be amazed. I would probably get to that number different than he does in his math classes now
It's
than I
true.
got in my math classes.
That's
He's
true.
in sixth grade, and some of the math problems we do sometimes, we get to the same answer, but I'm just like, how did you do that? Why did that work? But he figures it out.
Oh, funny quick story about that. I saw some of my son's in first grade, and some of his homework assignments came back with him, our school assignments, and we were just dying looking at this because we look at his worksheet. It's like solve this math problem. Look down. He has the correct answer, and it says like show your work, or how'd you come to that? And instead of like my son doing like normal stuff, he wrote down, "I just know." this is working. So, like, can't really do that, bud. You kind of have to show your teacher what you're doing. So,
Oh, that's just about as good as the questions that Ridley had on some of his tests a long time ago, back in like first or second grade, and he came to like one of the questions was a question, and his answer was IDK. He physically wrote the letters IDK on the piece of paper, so I don't know. This is what he wrote. IDK.
That's amazing.
Like, what? You can't write that on a piece of paper for school.
Oh, good stuff.
It was a good teaching moment there at home.
Awesome. Well, I don't know about some of these dark themes. There's a transition for you. Very awkward, but
Yes.
we'll go with it. So
yes, our stories here aren't actually part of our what we're planning to chat about. We're chatting about games and the dark themes that they have in them. And why is it that they always seem to have these darker themes? Why is it that the horror genre or these like that type of genre, I shouldn't say horror, but the darker genre is the prevalent as I tried to use a big word, Steve, and I failed. Is most prominent in the board gaming community when it comes to making games.
Correct. Yeah, it's interesting because we had this comment jump up. We have a creator chat where the One Stop crew talks about does our planning, talk about games. Hey, are you guys looking at this or covering this? And it was dropped at one point, but like, why is this another dark theme, right? And like, why is it not like, hey, light happy bunny stuff? And it's interesting that this is so prevalent in the industry, and I do think around cooperative games as well. So, oh yeah, Snow mentioned not only genre but also graphic design, which is very true, very true.
Mm.
In fact, just before we started, we were chit chatting a little bit about one of the games I don't have on here, but I think mechanically it doesn't feel very dark at all. But the miniature design and the graphic design can be dark in that one. That's a Reichbusters, and Reichbusters is a Weird War II theme. So in that one, it's not real history, but it's history with a twist to it. And so that one, you've got this other faction that is kind of like Hydra, basically, and they've got this experimental weapon, and they're basically raising the soldiers back from the dead as zombies with mechanical things sticking out of them and all sorts of weird things. So they're pretty gross looking. So that's a really good example of one that has a horror graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
And Snow is getting right down to the point, which I think is one of the discussions I want to talk about. There's the thought that cutesy equals for kids, and dark equals serious for adults, which is lame. I agree. It's like
that's very true.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the cutesy stuff too. I have no problem admitting that. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about having the kids I have is like we've been watching. You get to watch you get to relive some of your like Disney stuff that you grew up watching, and all the kids shows out there now are kind of all fun and games. We know we talked about Saturday morning cartoons, but when we were watching Saturday morning cartoons, they're not as light and fluffy when we were growing up as they were now. I mean, now there's like you got I don't know what everybody's kids watch, but my kids watch like or if you can't have kids, Paw Patrol, which is really just a bunch of pups saving the day, and there's really not a lot of really bad things going on, and it's actually teaching things. Like our cartoons didn't teach us anything. I mean, it was growing up, really. I mean, we had the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show is hilarious. I showed it to my kids. It was the funniest thing ever. And I was thinking, yeah, I could see when I was younger, why parents were thinking this was a little violent.
Yeah, for sure.
A little bit. But anyway, that's beyond the point. Again, we're talking games, dark themes. Yes. For adults only, dark themes. That's what it seems like. And it's very true. I mean, we've been playing Cora Quest with my kids, and it's a dungeon crawler, and you're fighting monsters. But the story is a very light, happy story. Why can't they do something like that for adults?
I think it has a lot to do with the perceptions, honestly. And I think another one is Marvel United. When that one was launched, it had the very chibi-ish type art going on with it. You know, big head, kind of cute superheroes going on, and it personified to a lot of people, myself included, that this could be a kids game, right? This is a kids game, especially with coupling with the simpler rule set for sure. Because that rule set is stupid simple, but like why does that come off as a kids game necessarily when it's superheroes? I mean, superheroes, like I mentioned earlier, like the Batman series talks about PTSD. That's not a topic that like a lot of kids would understand, or it's pretty heavy, right? Yes, and Snow's like, I enjoy my cartoons very much, and I'm not a kid and don't have kids. Yes, exactly. Which
Hmm.
is very true. And I think one of the shows that my wife Kim and I have been watching with our son, Bluey. This is a show that's made. It's a BBC show in Australia, I believe. It's a bunch of dogs, a family of dogs, and it is fantastic. It is so lighthearted, so fun, and like we enjoy it as well as adults. It's really great. So I think there's like opportunities for that we haven't really dove into. And my wife's on here also mentioned blood, sex, and violence sells for sure, which I think we
Hmm.
see a lot in the industry because it's very very common to have games with combat in them where you're attacking stuff. In fact, looking at my list here, all of these have violent tendencies in them. I have mentioned.
Yes, I would say they all do. Uh, when I on your point, I see what you mean when it comes to uh, the uh, I lost it. I don't even know what I'm planning to say anymore. I had an idea in my head, it totally went away. It went
No
far,
worries.
far away. Oh my gosh!
I'll
What was
jump
I
to
going
Ron's
to talk
comment real
about?
quick because this is the other topic I want to bring up too. It's easier to band together to fight the dark evil monsters than it is to manage a farm together.
No, that's what I
Which
was going to talk about. Was it that? Yeah, that's
yes,
I think of where people like to have that ability of being able to be like, oh, I'm like this super awesome knight that's coming in to destroy the evil of the land, and you get to. It's almost like any kind of like being in like a role playing game where you get to be somebody that you're not, and you get to be able to do something you're not normally, which is kind of the cool thing about this.
what is interesting is I was trying to because I thought the same thing too about these dark themes and like well it's easier to cooperate and band together to take on this force that we can all at the table agree is evil. Uh, and I was looking into like why is that a thing to foster, right? For example, or to step in the game, because it's interesting. We talk about like good and evil. It's it's also a factor of how do I say this? The yeah, exactly comes down to good versus evil a lot of time. Yeah, it's good versus evil because you ban against them, right? But oftentimes when you have this thing that is perceived as evil, it is done so in a way where you can feel comfortable engaging with it because you don't have to worry about the moral situations and stuff like that. But like when
Hmm.
you're playing a board game, it is an abstraction. It is a game. So why are we leveraging this need to separate our morality from an abstracted board game in that sense? And honestly, some of these games even like with this War of Mine, gets into those moral dilemmas anyway. So I can see that as being a reason why it could have a darker theme because that one is proposing these moral dilemmas that obviously not dealing with in real life or hopefully not, and engaging what you would do in that situation. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think the games you have listed out there, all of them kind of feel like you're able to do what you're doing because you know you can step out of that reality and be able to fight against what this is. The only one up there is that This War of Mine. This War of Mine is tough. This War of Mine is rough. I really enjoy This War of Mine a lot for these moral choices and things. I think it's really interesting how they're able to tug at these different strings of who you are and what you are. I think that's a really interesting element, and they really walk this fine line on it. I think that's a really fine line you have to walk
Mm-hmm.
on when it comes to a board game.
Yeah.
And I know there's some out there that won't even touch a game like this, and that's totally fine. Everybody has their own prerogatives, their own games that they really like, and what they want to get out of a game. This one I really enjoy, and it's because of that fine line that they're walking, and I like to be able to walk that line and kind of see what would happen if. And it's interesting because you're a lot of times when you're doing the right thing in that game, sometimes that's the most detrimental to your group, and so you have to decide: do I really? I'm so close to winning. Um, do I want to just go down that dark path and not do probably what was the morally right choice? And that's where that game really plays in. A lot of the other games you have up there, Nemesis, is definitely a dark game. You're on a dark ship. There's things around every corner, but you're fighting against these aliens that are evil, and like these little aliens that are evil. I got them right here. Roar. I mean, these aren't the Nemesis, but they pretty much are. If you ever play the game, it's pretty much a rip off of Alien, which is why probably one of my favorite games. So in that you have a visual representation of evil running around the ship, and you can just have no problem. I'm just going to take this thing out. Everything's great. Of course, you're playing semi-co-op then in that one, where you're also having to decide if you want to be how dark you want to be in that game. Now I don't play that way. I usually play the co-op version of it. And coming back to your point on Marvel United, that is a fantastic example of when you had that game brought to you. It was, and we started learning how to play it, and everybody was seeing it. I would guarantee you are the only one in One Stop who went, "This game's gonna be really cool," and we all went, "Really, Steve? I don't know about that." But it's one of those things where you were right, because I don't think I had the foresight to see past its simplicity and its art style and what it was. And I think everybody that was thinking about backing was like, "Oh yeah, my kids and I are going to have fun with that game." And sure enough, my kids do have fun. But once you got into that game and learned about it, it exploded in the scene because people realized this isn't a kids game, but it was really built like that. And so I think it is hard to get those games that are built like kids games out to people in this genre, because they just need to want to like fight evil and be powerful and things like that. And I don't see the chat, and Steve is laughing, so I'm sure there's something going on.
Oh, just my wife giving me crap. She says,
Oh, that's good.
"Really,
She's good.
Steve?" is a common phrase in our house, which she's not wrong.
That's pretty funny.
Yes, yes. Um, but no, I completely agree with you. It was like I said, I had to sit down and really look deep into United with what when it's presented. Like, is this a kids game? This is not, because there wasn't a whole lot out there, and I got to the point where I was mathing out the system a little bit and kind of running through scenarios. Like I prototyped a little bit on my end to try to figure out what it would be like, and that's where I was like, you know what? I think there's more to this one, but it's hard to, especially with so many games come out, to seriously sit down and analyze what's happening with that type of stuff. But getting into, I want to do transition back to the dark theme a little bit, because one of the other ones we haven't talked about a lot is more of the reality piece, and I think this is one that hits home even if the theme is not dark, and that is any type of like war games. Like I have Black Orchestra on here as an example because that one,
Mm-hmm.
um, it is it's dark in the sense that this actually happened, right? It was a series of horrible events that happened, and in Black Orchestra, if you're not familiar with the game, you are playing as a member of the Black Orchestra, which was the nickname for a group of people who were trying to take out Hitler, trying to assassinate him and end the war early. And so as you're playing through the game, you have actual historical events that come out, and as you read the cards, it's got pictures of like the breaking of the shops, for example, um, and gets down to like where were they going in history, but it is it approaches it in a respectful manner where like, hey, this is what happened. Let's engage and learn about this, but it also throws on the, hey, let's try to take out the bad guy, right? So as let's ban against this evil person, right? As a playing against, I totally understand how that could be a big detractor from people from that standpoint, and also you look at it from a war games in general perspective. If I'm playing, doesn't matter what side it is, like uh, Germans and Russians or something like that, and our Germans and Americans or whoever it is, doesn't matter. And if you are associated with one or more of those nationalities, would you feel bad, taking out the other one or whatever, right? Do you have that link to people, which is
Yeah.
another one?
Um, I haven't played it yet, Steve, but would you say that there's that one about the Underground Railroad? Was that a
Freedom,
very similar
freedom.
type experience where it's in a dark part of history, but it's still you're learning? And I haven't really played it yet, but I'm guessing it kind of fits that same type of feel.
Yeah, it is. I don't. I struggle with that one being dark. Well, it's
Okay,
dark in that like this happened, right, and it's going through some
right.
historical references. Sure, like you read some of the cards and it's got like the backstories of people. I'm like, holy cow, this person mailed themselves in the box to escape. It's like it just blows your mind. But it is very respectful in that manner. And this one, that one you're not fighting. You're just trying to help flee and engage. So that's why I put Black Orchestra on here instead, because
Okay,
that's when you're fighting someone, you're trying to take someone out, as opposed to just
sure.
rescuing people. Which is getting back to the other one, talking about like what things will make it. Can you have more of that's not like that? And like, I think civil services like firefighting, for example, Flashpoint is a
Yeah,
perfect example, right?
yeah. There's what is it? That Stardew Stardew Valley. Is that it?
Yep, Stardew Valley.
It's
Yep.
Stardew Valley. Whoa, what do you know? I remember the word. That's pretty good. Oh, knock over all my miniatures. Uh, that was Colin introduced me to that one. That one was really really fun, and all you were doing in that one was like kind of harvesting stuff. You're going to go fishing. You're just kind of living a life. I was like, you know what? This is kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of like Animal Crossing when it comes to video game type thing. I know that Stardew Valley is actually based off, I think, a mobile game of some kind, where that's kind of what you're doing is kind of like living your life and kind of doing things for a community and things like that. And it was a really fun game. And then there should be more of those. The problem is, I don't think people just want it. It's almost like The Sims, where it's like, how many times do I want to, like, why is the Sim having a better life than I am? I mean, sometimes you kind of wonder, like, why am I not being my Sim? I mean, kind of thing. So I think people just like to, like you're saying, they like to step away. They like to be something they're not, or be able to engage in something that they normally don't. And so I think that's why a lot of these themes come like this. Like, there's always that predominant zombie theme that comes out that people like to battle against and things.
Yeah, and the Snow's right. Stardew Valley is based on a video game.
Yeah, that's I couldn't remember if it was a mobile game or a PC game or something like that.
Yep, sandbox farming. Yep. And Ryan mentioned Orange Shell Overcome, which can be, that's another one that isn't out yet. Dutch Resistance, fantastic game. I loved it. I was really surprised with it. But that one isn't about fighting. That's all about evading. So that one I think it approaches that theme in a different standpoint. I would say. I feel like it can definitely have a darker theme if you think about like people who are trying to just get by and fight back in a more pacifist way, right? So that one's just a particularly interesting example to discuss for sure. Oh, Nemesis Games is on here. He's saying this is a lovely mug, Bairnt. So, a lovely mug.
Thank you so much. my son got it for me a few Christmases ago. He was very proud of it. It's his favorite character. So of course, every Wednesday morning before he goes to school, we have been watching the Book of Boba Fett because that is his favorite character. So it's a lot of fun to be able to do things like that.
It's side tangent here, but it's particularly interesting to me how big Boba Fett became, and he had like 3 lines in the whole movie, right? Like the movie series. So
super. It's interesting because Disney actually has like a whole I think an hour and a half documentary on his character and kind of the evolution of what the thoughts of and kind of where this thing where he came from and what some whole brainstorms behind the plan of that character, and it was kind of cool to see. So and of course my son was loving it, and he's a huge fan of Star Wars, so it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Awesome.
But yes, there's yes, Boba Fett's pretty good. I noticed you also put the Tainted Grail up here, Steve. Now, this is one it's dark in the fact that it's in a world that has kind of gone to darkness, and you're bringing kind of the light, but you're a ragtag group that's not. People probably could have been better. Sadly, the ones that were better didn't make it. And I have not played enough of this game. I need to play more of this game. I've only played about the first 4 missions in it, and I really need to play more of it. And every time I say that to myself, I don't bring it to the table. And it's not because of the theme, and it's not because of anything, because I really want to see it. I think something what those games bring is the fact that the cool thing about it is your struggle through the darkness to bring that light to be able to have this happy ending. Usually, is something that's really people like to see. They like to, if it's maybe just a one shot, they want to see that happy ending at the end. It's always something like, even in movies and things, it's always happy endings and things like is part of it. And I think people love that struggle to get to that point, and that's why this theme is so prevalent, is because you're able to put the darkness away. Like people have already been saying, battle the evil, and once you can do that,
that's a really good point. Because if you start with something lighter theme, like you have less of a distance to go to get to that light, right? Maybe that's not as satisfying in that sense. So
all right, I went fishing and found 2 fish. Or else I took down a giant evil boss with flame breath and death wings. Yeah, I mean that seems like a little bit more exciting than catching 2 fish. Right. So I could probably make catching 2 fish pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure. It is interesting too to talk about some of these themes that we don't see a lot of in the cooperative genre. For example, like I know in the Eurospace we have a lot of farming games, for example. But farming is oftentimes fairly cooperative too, honestly. Like, oh, you know what? Oh, my machine broke down. Can you help me harvest my corn before the storm comes, right? And so that stuff happens, right? Helping each other out in that sense. And I'm curious, like, why we haven't delved into that. And I suspect that it's because these are more real themes, and honestly, in the board game community seems like generally fantasy of some kind, whether it be science fiction or medieval fantasy or whatever it happens to be, tends to be the ones that people gravitate towards.
Yes.
So Time Slayer has a question. He says, "Hi, just joined. Did you think about KDM, King of Death Monster? Can't get any
Yes.
darker than that. But why would people? But why would people love it? Which is one I definitely thought about putting on it for sure.
We Steve and I talked about that a little bit off the air. We were thinking about putting that one on, but it's like everybody knows this game. It's a huge game
Right.
and it's an amazing game. And you know what? Looking back on this, Steve, we should have put this one on here because he's right. This is the epitome of your dark theme. I really think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
This is one of those where the theme, I believe, has held this game back from how great it could be, which is a hard thing to say because it's usually Chris is inside that top 20 somewhere. Usually it's been there for like a long time. It's maybe dropped a little bit here and there, and it comes in and out. Um, it if Gloomhaven would have had a theme like that, I don't think it would have been number one, and
Mm.
for so many years and how long it's done because that was just more of a dungeon crawler battling the bad guys. This game hits so many levels of darkness that
Hmm.
it has steered so many people away from this game. I personally enjoy the game a lot. For those of you that know and have heard us talk before, theme never really bothers me. The game is what bothers me if it's good or bad. That's usually the deal.
Yep.
So I love to play all different kind of games. I really embrace every type of theme. So this one is really good. I really enjoy this game, and yes, it is super dark when it comes to how this game is played. Not only in the depictions of graphics, but also kind of what happens in the game itself. I mean, there's potential for murder. There's potential for just banishment in a civilization, that's pretty rough. I mean, you don't want to be banished. That's the end. And in this game, being banished is not like the part of your journey. Like sometimes in some of the games, like, oh, I was banished and now I have to go like redeem myself and things. No, and that's the end of that guy. I mean, goodbye.
Hmm.
So yes, there's a lot of and how this monster can do things to you, and even the wounds and stuff you take can be super brutal. Yeah, we've talked a lot about KDM, and I've talked about how awesome this game is. But yes, when it comes to a topic like this, that is probably your epitome of dark game.
Definitely. Yeah. Time Slayer to
Yes.
follow up to that. It says, "I think it's because of the desperate situation, the necessary cooperation of the group to survive or just cease to exist."
Yep, and what really makes the game shine. I think he's embodied that better than any other game I've ever played.
Definitely.
There, I mean, like people ask me, "Well, what would you say KDM is?" And I always say it's a boss battling civ builder, because
Hmm.
there's really nothing else to it. I mean, you're battling bosses to bring stuff back so your civilization can prosper. If your civilization doesn't prosper, that's then you get to read the end,
Right.
and you have to
Right.
start again. So yes,
For sure.
super good, and it does teach some neat things about like there's a lot about cooperation. This game is not one of those ones where you can just kind of nobody talks and kind of plays as they're playing. Like no, there isn't like a perceived best move. A lot of times, like what do you think I should do? Oh, why don't you got to go around this way and get this guy like this? And okay, great. Oh no, I rolled poorly. Oh crap. Well, let's get in here and do this. Oh crap. Oh, it's really kind of it's fun to see all those different interactions with people as sadly the desperation of surviving becomes harder and harder.
Right. But yeah, this is an interesting trend because it's been kind of the ongoing joke with the one stop guys. We're like, oh, there's another co-op game, and yep, it's another dark theme, right? And it's constant, very constant.
You'll get something like, "Hey, has anybody heard of this game? It says we have to band together to fight the darkness." That's
Yes.
like in the title, like in the like synopsis of the game that they'll send. Like sometimes people will send like a synopsis of kind of what the game is, and then we
Right.
talk about who might want to cover that game or if it's something that would fit our channel and things like that. So
Right.
it's funny that that usually always seems to be the first sentence in a lot of the games.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah, I thought this would be a fun one to kind of address and talk about. And there's a lot of interesting like reasons why this could be the case, and why this is prevalent in the industry. At least it seems that way
Yeah.
currently now. So
And we don't have any answers as to how to change it or what to do about
right.
it. It's just this is just the reality of the situation, and it's. I don't think it's going to go away. I think there's going to
Hmm.
be people just. This is like we've been saying. This people want to step out of the norm. People want to come out with in the right, and they want to see the light at
Exactly.
the end of the tunnel that they're struggling to get to, whether it be through protecting or trying to get their civilization to the end, or may it be getting their one hero the most like built up strong as they can, so they can take on the 5-headed like Doom Dragon of Azrochlinish or whatever. I don't know. I made something up. So it's always going to be there. Or do we have to fend off all the zombies so we can get to the end? Or we are the zombies and have to get to the end. Marvel zombies.
Oh, which we never did even mention, but that was hit 9 million. It is, as by my research, it's the number 3 most funded Kickstarter board game ever.
All right, so it didn't beat KDM or Gloomhaven, huh?
Or Frosthaven.
Or sorry, Frosthaven.
Yes, did not. Those are close to 13 mils, so those are really tough to get.
That.
So, but yes.
Yep. Well, when you got a game like that, you know it's good. You know it must be pretty good if it gets that much.
Exactly.
So number 3, huh?
Number 3.
That's pretty good. I wish them well.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, we're gonna end it for today. We'll be back next week for another chat. And thanks for everyone for joining.
Thank you very much for being in the chat. I'm excited to see you all, and we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See, I like that. Yeah, I did that, Steve. That was good.
Yeah, from the intro, talk about Batman. Yes, love it.
It's a bookend.
The bookend, exactly. See you at the next stop, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care.